Hello, and thank you for joining us on Overtime. At this point, Reuters, the Associated Press, and several other news organizations are reporting what appears to be a coup d'etat, a military coup against what was a joint civilian and military government in Sudan. Now, this is going to be important for any number of reasons. Sudan has alternated between having strategic importance and not, both for the United States and for Russia. Russia, about a year ago, attempted to put a military base in Sudan, but then decided against it for strategic reasons and pulled out, leaving a rather large hole in the Sudan's budget. Now, Sudan is a rather poor country. The history of Sudan, as it applies here, basically you have to go back about 30 years. President Umar Hassan Ahmad al-Bashir ruled the country for about 30 years and was ousted by the civilians in April 2019. And a sovereignty council, which was, again, a joint civilian and military executive body, replaced him. Now, this was heralded as a sort of a global shift for the people of Sudan. Darfur, what many people don't know, is actually in Sudan. Darfur became famous, unfortunately, in 2003 for mass genocide, which displaced nearly 2 million people and resulted in the deaths of thousands. Now, right now, they are facing debts to numerous countries, a number of both African and European countries, including the U.S., has attempted some investment there in an attempt to help the fledgling democracy. But they've only had democracy for really about 2 or 3 years. Now, a couple of weeks ago, it's hard to say what started first. I guess there were some protests suggesting that the military should take over and that this would somehow accelerate their recovery. But it looks like there was a much larger number of counter-protesters who came out and said, no, the military was, in fact, the greatest obstacle towards continuing democracy and a recovery of the country. So what appears to have happened, the protests got rather large, and yesterday, well, it depends on where you are and when, but Sunday afternoon, the protests got rather large, demanding for the ouster of, excuse me, I'll have to look up his name again, so give me 1 minute, General Burhan and the rest of the military council. Burhan said that this was actually agitators from former Bashir associates and Bashir supporters who wanted to see a return to that kind of government, and in an attempt to maintain democracy, threatened to crack down on the protesters. There's no evidence that this is accurate. It looks like, and we've seen this before, whenever a strong man wants to take over a country, they'll say, well, in the name of democracy, we're going to disband the civilian government and do duly elected officials. So that looks like that's what's happening here. Earlier on Monday, there were arrests now, Monday for, so I'm trying to have, I'm having a hard time figuring out the order based on the time difference, but it says Monday, which would have been really early Monday morning for them, late Sunday night for the U.S. and most people watching this. There were arrests of at least 5 government officials, including their prime minister. So this was Industry Minister Ibrahim al-Sheikh, Information Minister Hamaz Baoul, Mohammed al-Fiqi Suleiman. I apologize for butchering those names. So this represents a number of advisors and members of the, let's see, what was the name of the council again? I apologize. And then It looks like, okay, the nobody knows right now where the prime minister is, but he is presumed at a minimum to have been arrested. So what do we have? Well, right now, internet has been cut. They have no internet and haven't had internet for, it looks like, about 3 hours. They've had got no phone. The result of this now appears to be a significant backlash. We don't know how many. We're getting reports of several hundred people in the streets in various cities. This is literally, I mean, this is still just new. This is the last known video to come out before internet service was disrupted. That's Sudan about 3 hours ago, and so there are now counter protests. Or protests, depending on who you ask. What I'd like to do right now is show you, so the sun is coming up in Sudan as we speak, and there are reports of, as people are learning about this, a number of people going and taking to the streets. We've got, let's see, this is a photo here that was taken less than an hour ago. We also have this one now. That's not a lot of people. So we don't know what's going to happen, but it's a lot of people for daybreak. And for this just starting, and you can see here even more people. Oh, let's put that up in number 2 there. Oh, that's, yeah, you're not going to be able to see that, I think. Let's see if I can make that a little bigger for you. So people are right now just learning what has happened. I think we're looking at, obviously, I suppose, one of 3 possibilities at this point, and we don't know. We don't. There doesn't appear to have been a large force involved in this. It seems to be just the military leadership. I don't know if there is, in fact, a large military force that we're unaware of, or if it's just the military half of the council taking over. If it is, I think they're going to have a problem. So the 3 outcomes that I see going forward. 1, you're going to see large numbers of people massing in the next 2 to 3 hours, and they're probably going to start marching on the buildings in the capital and start trying to not only protest but possibly violently take back the government. They succeed. Yay. The second possibility is that they don't amass enough people and that there is, in fact, a significant military presence, and this marks the end of the fledgling Sudanese government as they've been trying to establish a democracy and raise their people up from poverty. Or 3, somewhere in the middle, we end up with fighting for days and or months. We don't know. The military does have some support with within the civilian population, but it doesn't look like a whole heck of a lot. There's been some counter protests from military supporters, people who say we need a strong military presence in order to reestablish I was going to say superiority. I think that's in order to rebuild the country and try to reestablish it. They had it under Bashir, and they weren't necessarily all that successful. They are responsible for a large number of minerals, and let me get that list up, and we will see here. Let's see. So, among the exports, they are in fact the 3rd largest exporter of gold, and then I'm still going to try to get this list. They are the 3rd largest exporter of gold in the world. They also export diamonds. They are a African country. So, hold on one second. Natural gas, gold, silver, zinc, iron, lead, uranium, copper, cobalt, nickel, and aluminum. So I don't know what this is going to do to stock market prices as the U.S. market comes up. Presumably they don't want to cut off supplies if they don't have to, but they're going to have to cut off supplies at least briefly. Again, 3rd largest supplier of gold in the country. They also were the 4th country ever to recognize Israel as a nation. that poses a somewhat of a problem going forward, because I assume that the military would be interested in revoking that. The Sudan has been on the list of state sponsors of terrorism for quite some time, and under the Trump administration, we agreed to remove them from that if they recognized Israel as a state and if they continued to make progress towards democracy, which, while slow, they have in fact done. So they only have recognized Israel as a state, I think, for roughly a year, somewhere between a year or two. They are the latest one, and obviously it is in everybody's best interest to see as many Middle Eastern countries and African countries recognizing Israel as a state. So that is where we stand. I think I'll do a brief rundown in a minute, but this is the last footage that we have. We have pictures coming out right now, but the last footage before the internet was shut off is what you see playing right now. There's been a coup d'etat. The military has taken over in Sudan. At least that's what it looks like. That's what AP and Reuters seem to be saying. It happened probably about 4 or 5 hours ago. Daylight is breaking right now in Sudan, and it looks like mass protesters are hitting the streets. So we will see what happens. They have a number of, let's see, yeah, okay. They have a number of precious minerals and natural resources. That includes natural gas, gold, silver, zinc, iron, lead, uranium, copper, cobalt, nickel, and aluminum. They are the third largest exporter of, or third largest source, I should say, of gold on the planet, and have been trying to establish a democracy for about the last 2 years after the fall of the Bashir regime, which ruled for 30 years and was a dictatorship and a state sponsor of terror. Most people know this country for Darfur in 2003, when there was a mass genocide, thousands of people killed. I think it was almost 2 million people displaced. So, yeah, that's a good question. I guess the importance of this country has been in flux. Russia wanted to build a military base there shortly after they freed themselves from the Bashir regime. They wanted the base. The base would have brought in a good deal of money, and it would have been a permanent base and a strategic foothold for Russia. Russia then changed their priorities and decided that they did not need Sudan. Maybe another military base. Maybe, maybe the Ukraine was sufficient for them. I don't know. But at any rate, without that investment, they've been having a good deal of problems. The U.S. has not invested a lot there. We've sort of looked at investing some. There's been humanitarian aid. They are a poor country, but they're not in the throes of starvation as much as a number of other African countries. They've been trying to keep their heads above water, and kind of succeeding is what it looks like to me. We're still getting sort of caught up to speed on all of this. So, yeah. The phones are down, internet's down. So I don't know. I don't know enough about Sudan to know strategically what value it has. I mean, if we want to go to war in that area right now, we've got a couple of places we can launch from. I don't even remember if I think Turkey is still available to us. The biggest thing that I can think of that's important here is the fact that they've recognized Israel, and at least in terms of the stability of the region. But I don't think returning to a state where they are members of state-sponsored terrorism is a good idea. So I think that's another biggie. They were on the state terrorist list, and they wanted to get off it. They did what it took to get off it. They kept up their end of the deal, but that included maintaining democracy, which they've done. Been tough, but they've done it, and recognizing Israel, which they also have done. So I don't know what this means for either of those two things. Again, this is just shortly after the coup. We don't, you know, the phones are down, internet is down. So when the coup occurred, only people who happened to be up at the time and were connected to social media knew of it. This is presumably making a lot of noise in neighborhoods, but people are going to be sleeping through it. As people wake up, this is probably going to get significantly larger. We have no idea the military presence. I've seen no evidence. It doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but I've seen no evidence of any military movement, tanks moving in, or anything like that. So the military has said that the civilians actually want this, that they've been asking for a return to sort of a Bashir-style regime. There is evidence that, yes, some were, but it was a very small minority of the population. They were, in fact, protesting for it, and the counter-protests appeared to have been significantly larger. So, yeah, this video is about 3 hours old. 3 hours old, I think. We may in a minute try to get some more footage, or if anyone on the Discord and you guys, we've done this a few too many times, I think. Anybody on the Discord who happens to get a stream of something that's live, and you can drop it in the news sharing or send it to me, and we'll inline it. But this is about 3 hours old. I'm going to advance a little bit through this. Well, let's see how far we are. We're only about 16 minutes into an hour-long video. I'll leave this for now. But that's it. So I'll do a rundown in a minute, and we'll see. Like I said, this is still new. It's Reuters. The only ones who have it right now that I'm aware of is Reuters, AP, and a couple of other organizations. So the smaller ones, I don't see any major U.S. Sources carrying it. Last I checked, it wasn't on CNN, MSNBC, or Fox, which Fox has been the ones who've actually, they scooped us more than CNN or MSNBC, which is really scary. But anyways, it's Sudan. Yep. There is two, it looks like there's a number of organizations, including the Sudanese Professional Association. This is the largest association of, let's see, I think it's the largest business and or political association in Sudan, and they are calling for immediate, they don't even say protest. They just say take to the streets and stop the power grab. So, which is, again, I think what you're seeing here. Let's see, it looks like they posted that 4 hours ago. So that's where we are. Yeah. All right, so what you're seeing is footage that's about 3 hours old. Like I said, so I'm going to look at there is a few more. We can drop some links. I'll try to drop some links. Actually, go to the Discord. The links are in the Discord. You'll find a whole bunch of links in the news sharing, and if you go to those Twitter threads, you'll find a whole bunch of footage and video that seems to be updating literally by the minute. It looks like the Prime Minister Hamdok is possibly preparing to issue a statement in support of the coup. It looks like this is going to be under duress. So we'll see, but it looks like what's shaking out now, and we have a few more photos. Let me bring another one up. Yeah, the numbers are definitely growing. You can see it's daylight is definitely, it is now daytime. And there are people massing. It looks like the military has him. I don't know if he's got a family. I don't know the status of that, but it looks like they are applying pressure to get him to basically cede and say, nope, the government's in charge now. Sorry, the military's in charge now. Now, they've got a surprising number of people there. I don't have the numbers, but okay, there's a suggestion. Yeah, okay, so yeah, it's clearly, I mean, that's at least that I can see about 200 people right there. Yeah, that's at least, yeah, that's about 200 people. How many more there are, I don't know. Like I said, it looks like this is just getting started. My hope is that there's a quick resolution to this. It doesn't look to me like the military has thought this through. Already, it's sort of the way they were framing just suggests to me that there were calls. The last protest that we heard about, which was on Sunday afternoon, they were calling actually for the ouster of the military. So I think the military was about to get booted, at least the military leadership, and maybe they felt this was their last ditch attempt to try to stay in power. All right. Okay. Now, okay. Those of you who remember Darfur and who remember, yeah, so they one of the things that they do is they'll take tires, burn tires in the middle of the road. They'll take burnt out cars and block roads and just create one hell of a mess in protest. It looks like that's already started. So we've got reports of, okay, what I'm seeing here is a number of pictures from different locations. So that's 1, 2, 3 locations. Each have about between, okay, that's 200 people. That's going to be about 100, maybe a little more. So, I mean, they're gathering. I'm gonna take a look right now. So we've got video. Yeah, there's, okay. Oh yeah. I'm gonna tag that. Let me get that in. So what we may do here is, yeah, I'll put that up in number 2. So what we have now is, it looks like civilians. Yep, it's civilians. They are blocking the roads, which if the military is not moving, I don't know what the goal of that is. I don't think there's a organized civilian counter-protest. The closest that we have to that would be the Sudanese Professionals Association. That would be, if the civilian government's gone, those are the only ones who are going to be able to organize anything. And I don't know that burning tires and blocking the streets is going to help them, especially if the military is not mobilizing. And I've seen no evidence that the military is mobilizing. We haven't heard of. I don't even know what they've got for a military, to be quite honest. They must have some for there to be generals who have authority in the government. But what it is, I don't know. We haven't seen any helicopters. We haven't seen military men in uniforms. We haven't seen anything. It's just civilians. So, like I said, we're going to keep an eye on it and see what we can see. What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to put into camera 2, which is the one immediately to my left. We're going to put. I'm going to drop in the this video. This is footage taken. Don't know when it was taken. It was posted about 19 minutes ago. So it looks like this footage is. Nope. Okay, that didn't go in. Hold on a sec. Let me try to snag that again. Here we go. There we go. All right, so this is the tires burning, and at least some smoke starting to come up over the city. It doesn't look like there are any buildings on fire or anything like that. It's just people taking to the streets and wreaking havoc, which unfortunately they really don't need right now. But the alternative is to let this happen, and I think nobody's going to do that if they can help it. So there we go. Let's there we go. So let's see. This is the city. I'm going to play this a little bit. Now, we actually do have audio, but and I don't know. I think this is an Arab country, so I assume they're speaking Arabic. It's going to be either Arabic or Farsi. It's an Arab country, so they're going to be speaking Arabic. I don't think any of us can understand that, and I didn't want to. I could try it. Because I'm crazy, I'll turn on the audio on one of these, and we'll see what we've got. I don't think we're going to be able to understand anything. So let me do this here. Oh, yeah, that did come in. Okay, where's... Here we go. Let's see what we got.
لو ما بتقدر تطلع الزلط ترس قدام بيتك. لو ما بتقدر تطلع الزلط ترس قدام بيتك. العساكر والجنجويد القتلة المجلس العسكري الانقلابي انقلبها تاني. قلبها تاني، هاي قلبها تاني. الانقلابيين قلبوها تاني. الانقلابيين قلبوها تاني واعتقلوا كل القيادات. حرية والتغيير.
All right. I can't make heads or tails of it. I assume nobody else can, and since it's risking a strike just playing it, we'll wait. There's no point to playing that right now. I'll play the audio on the other one. I suspect it will be no better, but you know, there's no reporters in there that I'm aware of. So most of this isn't gonna be English. Okay, so I got nothing there. So let me I'm going to quickly check and see what's going on in the live chat, and then, yeah, okay, there's the smoke. So yeah, it looks like last I said, all right, the Biden administration has now come out and said that they're going to cut aid to the Sudan if the military coup continues. So, you know, we don't provide them with a huge ton of aid, last I checked. We provide them some, but we have not really invested in this country. And a lot of, now, there are European countries that also provide aid. So, and my guess is as this continues. So, I have a hard time believing that the military is going to be able to pull this off. I've seen no indication that, listen, I'm not an expert here. I don't know what the military's got, but we haven't seen first of all, this looks completely impromptu. We do know that there was a pretty big protest yesterday, and the protest was to ouster the military elements in the government. So what this looks like is we're just in a sort of final bid to try to stay in power. They just took over, but there isn't a military presence. They didn't bring in any tanks. They didn't bring in helicopters. I don't see any troops anywhere. So, and I don't see any reports of them. We've been looking now at, you know, there's no reports of any kind of troop movement. It's a little hard to tell. I don't know how many reporters are out there that you know, are credentialed with any news organization that we'd recognize. So everything that we're getting is off of people who find a way to get the information out, despite the fact that phone lines are cut and the internet's down. So we'll see. But this looks to me like this was an impromptu thing. And the U.S. does have an interest, the entire world economy has an interest in the gold that comes out of there. They're the third largest supplier of gold in the country. They also provide a number of other things. The uranium, I think, is one we're going to be interested in. And we support democracies. And this is only about a 2-year-old democracy, but they want to keep it. And it looks like they're willing to fight for it. So it looks like right now the military is trying to get the prime minister to say that he endorses this coup. And I don't know what they have to pressure him with, but that's what we're hearing. That's unconfirmed, so I can't. But that's it looks like that's what's happening. So that we may get a statement from him at some point. I don't know. So give me another minute here. Yeah, so the Biden administration's weighed in. Yeah, I mean, Sudanese Congress Party and the Communist Party. Okay, so the Union Association, they've all now condemned the coup. So every major political organization has condemned it. That's where we are. I will do a rundown in one. Oh. Okay. Yeah, we're going to have to... Okay, I'm going to switch. We're going to... Ow. We're going to have to switch to the overload interface, and we'll get some more footage up in a second. Yeah, this is spreading. I mean, the news of this is spreading very quickly. This video here that we're about to get up already has 40,000 views, and it's been up for about 2 hours. So... All right, thank you, Bregwin. I'll hit it in a sec. Okay, I think I got that down. I just want to make sure that's the right video. So, no, that's the wrong video. That's not going to do it. Okay. I'll take one more stab at this, and then I'm going to move on, because I got better things to do than to just... This says I can do it. All right. We're trying to inline a piece of video, and they don't always like you doing that. So we usually have the ability to do it, but right now we seem to have been foiled. I'm going to take one more stab at this because I hate to lose. Especially to a computer. All right. It's just, oh, I know why. Bingo. Got it. All right. Got that done. So we will have another piece of footage for you in a minute. The audio keeps... That's loud, and it keeps going straight into the earpiece. I probably don't even need this thing right now, truth be told. All right, so, and then we got a couple other pieces of information coming in, so I do appreciate you guys bearing with us. There's just a tremendous amount, where there's smoke, there's a tire. Yeah, the petroleum, and I guess they were, so, I don't know how much petroleum, to the best of my knowledge, they weren't on, what's it? OPEC is, I don't even know if they qualify for OPEC, so I don't know. This is coming in pretty quickly, and I haven't had as much time to look into this as I would like, but I appreciate the support. We'll discuss that in a minute, but okay, so Bregman said that there was an article earlier in Discord, looks like the civilian government, and I think she posted it, but I want to... You can see on the video we have down at the bottom was right before daybreak, so we've been watching that. We're now 30 minutes into that video, and I think you're going to start to see a lot more people. They've now been... It's been daytime there now for at least an hour, and we're getting reports of... I wouldn't say mass protests, because... Everything I've seen multiple pictures from multiple locations of a couple hundred people each. We've seen mass protests before. We've seen, you know, of course, the, you know, what happened during, in the summer when we got when the U.S. was just completely inundated with protests. But, you know, that's not what we're seeing yet. But it's, you know, the sun is still just coming up. So let me, I'm going to have to figure out which one. Okay, if we switch to the overload, we will. That's the overload. 1, 2. All right. So if you will all bear with me for a minute, what I'm going to do is start getting as much as I can here ready. We're going to switch to interface that's going to show a few more pieces of video, and then I'll do another rundown, and we will figure out where we stand right now. Yeah, we'll put that there. All right. No. Reset, that's fine. Okay, that's 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And, all right, I'm gonna need one more minute, and then I think we're good. We could actually, no, we can't. Okay. I think that's is not everything. What am I missing? I'm missing that. Boom. All right. I think we're good. So let me. Yeah. All right. So, oh, and we got. Looks like we got one of the cameras has the super chat info over it. So let me see if I can remove that. No, it's not going to be easy to remove. Switch the camera. So give me one more second, and it does look like did the video stop? Yeah. All right, one more second here. There we go. And So now that we've changed all the cameras, let me just try to figure out which one is. If that's 7, so I can tell you guys. I will let you guys know in a minute which is which. Camera 4 is the one that's covered. That was the large. Let's switch that out so you guys can see a bit better. All right, so we're going to switch that there. And then this is, this is why. So one of the rumors that I've heard is that Titan wants to learn to produce. So, anyone wants to produce, but if Titan wants to produce, just saying, it's fun. No, I guess I was lying about that. It's fun part, but it's producing. All right, so yeah, this isn't biblical in any way whatsoever. 2,000 years of history of people saying that something was biblical and being dead wrong is enough to tell me that. Sarah Palin thought that the Bible proved that Barack Obama was signaling the end times. He was literally bringing around the end times. You know what Obama said to that? I'm not kidding. He said, quote, Michelle Obama thinks that I'm actually going to bring about the end times. Think about it. Washington didn't do that. Lincoln didn't do that. That's a legacy. Anyways, no, let's let's not get silly. So, I'm going to do a rundown again in a minute. What we're going to do now, what we've got here is the footage. Let's see, we got camera 3, camera 7. So it looks like that footage must have gone back in time because we were seeing the sun break, unless I accidentally switched, which I may have. No. Okay, so it looks like that footage was a hodgepodge of a couple of different things. So on the bottom one, we have daybreak, as people were learning that there was a coup d'etat and the military government has overthrown the civilian government in. And when I say military government, there was a power sharing agreement. There was a council made up of half military, half civilian. The military half has now taken over and booted the civilian half. 5 civilian leaders are presumably arrested. The prime minister's whereabouts are unknown, but he is, it appears to be not only in custody, but at present we've heard, at least, that an unconfirmed report that the military is trying to pressure him to endorse the coup and to voluntarily, and to say that he is voluntarily handing over control of the country to the military to try to legitimize the coup. So at this point, internet is down, phones are down. The Sudan generates about, they're the 3rd largest source of gold that we have in the world. And they also have petroleum and a few other things that we do buy from them. They were under a dictatorship for about 30 years under the Bashir regime, and they threw that regime off about 2 or 3 years ago, and they've been a fledgling democracy ever since. They are attempting to okay, so there is apparently, according to the Facebook page of the Ministry of Culture and Communication, the Prime Minister has refused to endorse the coup and has now been taken to an unknown location by the military. So nobody knows the status of the Prime Minister, but it looks like at present he is not going to endorse the coup. So Biden has come out, or the Biden administration has come out and condemned this and said we are suspending all aid to the country until the military returns control to The civilian government, there are tires burning. That's what you see immediately on my left. Your right, the camera 2 there. What you see is tires burning. They've been blocking up the streets, and I'm not entirely sure. We can't see any moving military. I've seen now a lot of pictures. I've seen aerial pictures. I've seen pictures from the ground. I haven't seen any military assets, no soldiers, no tanks, no helicopters, nothing. So, and oh yeah, I do need to follow up, Bregwin. Thank you. I'm going to follow up on and try to figure out. This looks to me like this was not planned, and I think the military just felt they were about to lose power, and decided to. Okay, so I guess on Saturday, now it's a question. I think it's our Saturday. Their Sunday. So, thousands of demonstrators gathered in front of the presidential palace, and the problem is that. Well, actually, there was okay. So there was a failed coup attempt. I'd forgotten about that in September, and it had been attributed by the military. This we did say earlier. So the military said it was Bashir loyalists who were actually attempting to overthrow the government and return to a Bashir regime, and that it was quelled. But it looks like it wasn't that. It looks like it was military loyalists who wanted the military to take over. Thousands were demonstrating this, and I think they were trying to push the military out and were blaming the military for the failed coup attempt. That was Saturday. Sunday, I didn't hear the protests being so large. Sunday, I don't know if they were and I didn't hear it, or if they were genuinely smaller. But Saturday, it was definitely thousands. Sunday, I know there were protests. There were some counter-protests supporting the military. And then this happened 4 hours ago. So what I'm going to do here is I'm also going to check, because I've got a couple of incoming messages, and I want to just make sure I keep up with all of that. So, So they're getting some aid from the U.S. They're getting aid from a number of different countries, and I don't know how they're going to operate without that aid. They're not a poverty-stricken country, but they're a poor country, and they need that aid. So we're going to withdraw the aid. And again, I don't think the military thought this through. We're probably not going to buy any of their oil. We're not going to buy their gold. Again, third largest source of gold in the world. That's going to hit markets. So I am curious to see what's going to happen with markets. Monday, markets are going to be opening in 6 hours. No, Jesus. 6 hours, if I got it right. A little less than 6 hours, five and a half. So, and I'm trying to read right now about. Okay, so Bashir is actually still in jail. He is in jail on charges of treason, corruption, and war crimes. So the military says that it was old Bashir loyalists trying to restore him that caused that initiated the coup attempt in September. And there's no evidence for that, and it looks like most of the civilian population here did not buy that and felt that it was actually the military. So now the military's absolutely done it for real, and they say that they are doing it to protect the civilians from an attempt to return to a Bashir-style government. However, it looks like their goal is to return to a Bashir-style government. So, yeah, that's what we got. So I'll do a rundown in a minute. I think, yeah. I'm also going to check right now and see if, like I said, the only ones last I checked who had this were Reuters and AP, and they weren't really covering it live. They just had a story on the fact that it had happened. So, okay, so then we got another group of anti-protesters. So that is in Al-Ramelia. So it looks like, a number of towns are having, that's Al-Ramia, Al-Kalakala, And then that's also Al-Kalakala, but that's a different, and then Omardan. So there are significant protests developing in very large cities right now across the Sudan. So that's what we've got. So I'm going to, okay, yeah. I'm going to check and make sure I've got everything in order, and make sure that everything we're saying is as accurate as we can be under the circumstances, and then we'll do another rundown. And then we will figure out how to proceed going forward. Really depends on how much news comes in over the next few minutes. Yeah, military is not defecting and siding with the people. That's what they're saying. But keep in mind, I'm trying to remember the most recent one where the military did that and just took over and said, "Oh, we're taking over in order to stop whatever it was that they were planning on doing." My brain's fried right now, so I'm not going to be able to recall that. But it looks to me like that's what they're doing, and all the evidence and everything that we saw in. Hold on, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So he's been okay. So the military definitely did move on this. All right, so where are we? We're going to start 30 years ago. 30 years ago, well, not 30 years ago, but for roughly the last 30 years, President Umar Hassan Ahmad al-Bashir has ruled Sudan. He is a dictator, and he is now awaiting trial on war crimes and crimes against humanity. I don't know if so war crimes, at least, and a number of other things. He is 77 years old. He is awaiting trial. He was deposed in 2019, and the civilians took over with what was called the Sovereignty Council, which was a joint military and civilian executive body. This body ran the country since April 2019. Now, they've accomplished a number of things. They did establish a democracy. That democracy is fledgling, but so far has been reasonably successful. They have, let's see, sorry, just catching up with this here. They don't have, they've been working on infrastructure and trying to improve the democratic process. They haven't been able to get a lot of money. Russia was going to invest there by building a military base, but suddenly changed its mind. And since then, they're really in debt to any number of other countries. The U.S. had them on the list of states which sponsor terrorism. And on January 6th, 2021, so just earlier this year, and I misspoke because I had said that was under Trump, and I'd read that was under Trump, but that would have to be under Biden. Okay. So the U.S. Sponsored Abraham Accords. Oh no, that's when they normalized the ties. Okay, that's the distinction. So they made a deal under Trump to normalize relations with Israel and to continue their efforts to strengthen their democracy in exchange for being removed off of the list of states that sponsor terrorism. This is important because they can't get aid from the U.S. and from really any of our allies so long as they are on that list. Since Bashir had been deposed, there seems to be no risk of terrorism. It seems like the civilian population doesn't want to be in that business. So that was the deal we made. And on January 6, 2021, they normalized relations with Israel, becoming the fourth Arab country to do so. So now what? Well, there was a coup attempt in September, and the military said that this coup attempt was done by Bashir loyalists who were attempting to either return Bashir, who is still alive facing trial, or to just, return the government to a Bashir-style dictatorship. And the military bravely fought them off. However, the general consensus is that it was actually the military themselves who attempted the coup and failed. Since then, there have been intermittent protests against the military, and the protests hit their peak about 2 days ago on Saturday, when thousands of people were marching in front of the presidential palace demanding that the military leaders be ousted. The protest continued on to Sunday night into Monday morning. The military stormed the home of the prime minister. They captured him and appear to have been trying to coerce him into saying that he supports this coup. They have captured 4 other civilian leaders. At this point, it looks like we don't know where any of these leaders are, and they have taken over the country. They have cut all internet and they have cut cell phone power. So at this point, it's very hard to know much of anything about what's going on. It looks like Sudan's military is going to make a statement about the prime minister and other top officials. So I think we're going to wait at least 15, 20 minutes. We're going to stay on air and see if we get something from them for that. What's been happening now is the largest organization, every economic and political organization in Sudan that I'm aware of has denounced this, but it was started by one of their largest, I think it's like a trade organization, and I'm trying to get the name of it, but at any rate, they appear to have been organizing most of the original protests, and they have now called for every Saudi citizen to go out and stop this coup, whatever that means. So what you can see in these photos on your right is tires burning. They've been taking tires, putting them out into the streets and burning them. Tires, cars blocking the streets. Now, to the best of my knowledge, there's no military assets moving through the streets, so I don't know the goals of this. I do know they can use them as signals too. I don't know how well organized nobody anticipated. They were planning on protests today. They weren't planning on trying to take back the government. So I don't know what kind of resistance leadership there is other than that one organization whose name escapes me. So Okay. So if it's 4 million in aid, 400 million in aid, that's significantly more than I had thought. I thought our aid was not. I knew we were giving them aid. I didn't think it was that significant. At any rate, Biden's administration has come out and said it is suspending all aid to them. And my guess is every other Western country is going to come out and say the same thing. We're suspending aid until the military gives up power. They're a poor country. They can't really afford to have the aid go away. Now, the only way they can do this now at this point, the only way the military could maintain power is really absolutely a brutal crackdown, because everybody there knows that they need the money. The military is going to have to keep the money for themselves just to stay in power. So we've seen this 100 times. The only way they can stay in power is if any money they get, and that includes from the sale of gold, any of the other resources they've got, take all that money to try to stay in power. The civilians aren't going to like that. So I haven't seen sufficient military assets I have no idea how they're going to stop this. Now, I've only seen pictures of several hundred protesters, but it's early still. The sun just rose about 3 hours ago. There, 3 hours ago. So we'll see. But we are expecting now a statement from the military. We've had an unconfirmed report, 2 unconfirmed reports. I know it sounds like it would be confirmed, right? But they're not official sources. So we've had 2 unconfirmed reports that they were trying to pressure the prime minister to go on television and say that he was handing over control to the military. He refused. So they've taken him somewhere. We don't know where. So that's it. 5 members of the civilian government have been taken, and the people are protesting. They're lighting stuff on fire in the streets, tires and cars mostly. From what we can tell, there isn't a particularly large military presence. This appears to, even the military didn't appear to have planned this. So it looks like, the protests were getting pretty large against them, and it may be that for some reason they thought either this week or maybe even on Monday there would be a serious attempt to oust them, and they decided to do this instead. I don't know, but this is where we stand. So let me I want to take the video that we're playing on the bottom right corner, and I want to see how much of that is left and where we are in that, because it actually looks like we may just be repeating. I want to make sure that, okay, I'm going to skip through on some of that. Okay, well, there's the, okay, that's the sunrise. Okay, that, they appear to be rolling a large, yeah, that's one of the, like a sewage pipe or a, yeah. So they're definitely blocking the street, yeah. Well, I have to say this, though, for a country that just got, you know, they actually seem, well, we heard this earlier, one of them was laughing, and they seem to be very, you know, jovial and optimistic. So, I mean, that's really good. I hope that stays. Yeah, so the military will stay on for another 10 or 15 minutes, in anticipation of this statement. I don't know that we're prepared to Mr. Frost, listen, you know, half a billion isn't very much in the scheme of things. I would disagree. To the United States, that's not a lot. To a country that's teetering on poverty, that's a lot of money. And, you know, so, and what the concern isn't how much it's costing us. The concern is how badly do they want it? And if you're a country that's, you know, again, they're poor. They're a poor country. That's a lot of money. So yeah, I can put her on. She's going to be speaking Arabic, but we can put her on. I haven't been playing them for a couple of reasons, not the least of which is we've had issues where later somebody buys this footage and then we get hit retroactively with a strike. We've successfully defended all of them, but it's just a pain in the neck. And the way they identify it is actually by the audio. And if there was any value to this audio, I'd play it. It's going to be Arabic. So unless you can, but we'll play it.
وين المسؤولين؟
كلهم قبضوهم.
دقيقة
قبضوهم يا أمي.
أتم كلامي؟
أوكي.
بقول لكم وين إذا كنتم مسؤولين، ما نحن كنا رعاياكم وأنتم أمام الله مسؤولين. ما نحن شرائح الشعب، وفي الشعب شرائح شعب ضعيف. فينا الضعيف وفينا الكفيف وفينا اللي على رجليه ما قادر يقيف، من طوابير العيش لديوان الزكاة ولطوابير الرغيف. وين المسؤولين؟ انتم ما مسؤولين ولا انتم من الله خايفين. نحن شرائح شعب ضعيف، اصنفهم لك تصنيف يا مسؤولين. فيهم طلاب جامعات من سنين خريجين، وفيهم طلاب جامعات بدون عمل عاطلين، حطمت آمالهم، أصبحوا في شغل مهمشين. فيهم القطع المتوسط وفي
Yeah, I don't. Apologies, I don't think that's productive. I'm sure it is to some people, but not to me, and I suspect not to the overwhelming majority of our audience. So, yeah, I keep sitting there. My impulse is, of course, to turn the audio on, but I can't do anything with it. So, I always wanted to learn Arabic, but you know, like as Andring says, you know, everything you want to do that you try to do is going to be at the cost of something else. It just has to be. You already have a life you're living. So. That's it. We're waiting to hear. It looks like there's going to be something coming up from Sudan's military, that they're going to make a statement. I think I'd like us to wait around for that. I'd like to see what that statement is, and then we're going to try to figure out how we're going to cover this for the rest of the day, or at least for the rest of the day. Figure out how we're going to cover this going forward. I don't think we're going to, you know, keep covering it live, but you know, if something big happens, we'll certainly come back and do that. But I'd like to hear what the military has to say. Yeah, no, here's the thing. Usually money like 400 million isn't actually given out to the people. Usually they spend that money on like making wells and building infrastructure so that, it's like the, give a man a fish versus teach a man to fish. You can teach a lot of people to fish for 400 million. And again, by the way, depending on the currency, my suspicion is their currency is soft. So that money probably goes a lot further there. Standard of living is probably lower. So $1 here probably buys a lot more over there. There's a million. I'm not even going to argue. It's a ludicrous argument. If your country is poor, listen, it's a lot of money, and you don't measure it by per person. You measure it by how much infrastructure you can build for that. And in the Sudan, I have to believe that's probably quite a lot. Let's see. Now, if they're trying to build military, if they're trying to buy military, they have to buy those. So here's the thing. If they're going to spend money to buy military hardware, they have to, then the dollars only count for dollars. So that makes perfect sense. So, if the military decides that they're going to spend that money building or buying planes and tanks and all that money's going to get them nowhere. That's not a lot of money. If the civilian government is going to spend that money, on infrastructure, that's a lot of money. And it's a lot of money because they pay locals in their currency. So the currency gets switched over. It's the same thing that happens, it's like, what is it? In Japan, a hot dog is like 30 or 40 bucks a hot dog. 30 or 40 bucks. To them, that's not a lot because their standard of living is higher and their currency has a greater value than ours. To an American, that's a tremendous amount of money. So, anyways. The protests leading up to this, the largest that I heard was about 2,000 to 3,000 in front of the presidential palace. And it was actually, even though it was the presidential palace, they don't have a president; they have a prime minister. If the prime minister was there, they weren't protesting him. They were protesting the government, which was a coalition of civilian and military members. The military has now arrested all of the civilian members. So the prime minister is under some kind of house arrest, as are 4 other members of this council, and there is no civilian government right now. So that's it. That's all we know. So thousands, yeah. So now here's the thing. I mean, I have to believe that they're going to be able to muster more than that now. Which I assume is why you were asking, which was a good question. So that was actually an insight. It took me a second to figure out why you were asking. You were asking because you want to know how many they can muster now. And the chances are it's going to be a lot more. So most of what you're seeing now, it's different areas across the country. And in many cases, we're seeing hundreds of people, but not thousands. But it's still morning over there. So the sun's only been up for about 3 hours over there. And they have no internet, no phones, so it's not like they could, call people and say, hey, let's go out and protest. It's basically when people are waking up and they're figuring out that this is going on, so. Yeah, I have no idea. 1 AK, oh yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. I mean, who knows how much or what they need, but I mean, if it's 1,000 people, again, I haven't seen any military presence. I don't know how well they're armed. This used to be, under the old regime, I can't believe that Bashir allowed them to have weapons, so I don't know. And then there's a question of, is there any members of the military that would be willing to side with the civilian government? I doubt it, but we'll see. I personally think that they're going to have a very hard time holding this. I think they're going to have a really hard time holding this. And I think the fact that they tried to pressure him so early on into coming out and saying, I think that my guess is that the military won't be able to hold on to this for more than a couple of days, maybe even have a hard time past today. News is going to filter quickly. news also that the rest of the world is kind of on everybody's side here. And then the military is going to be sitting there looking at this, realizing that they're going to get completely cut off from all their resources. Now, there's a problem. There's a misconception about Caesar, that Caesar killed basically all his enemies in combat, that he killed. No. One of the reasons Caesar was able to conquer so much so quickly is because, for the most part, he let the kings on the opposing side live. And he let all the commanders live, which was new. Most people didn't do that. They're very vengeful and just like, oh, we don't want him rising. But no, Caesar let them live. And the reason he did this is because now they've got an incentive to surrender. If they surrender, much better chance they'll make it through it alive. If they fight to the death. So I don't know what kind of deal the military would get offered. I don't know what, and maybe just if the average guy in a uniform down there realizes that, they're likely going to lose this thing. My hope would be they're going to flip or something. Who knows? I don't know. And this is the part of the show where we're doing wild speculation, and I think it's healthy to remind people that it's wild speculation. All we know is thousands for the last few days, and right now things appear to just be getting started. I mean, it's clear they're serious. At least right now they're serious. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, that's Southern Africa is, I concur, and I think Africa's huge swaths of Africa, the vast majority of Africa is having a hard time feeding itself, having a hard time keeping their countries stable. So this isn't going to help, and they're not going to get much local support. So I don't know. So we'll see. Let's see. We have, thank you. Let's see what we got here. We've got shared from Sudan now. Let me just check this out and see. It looks like we got another video. It's only about 30 seconds. Ow, Jesus. There's a lot of yelling. That's a small protest, but there is a lot burning there. Okay. So, I'm going to do another rundown in just 1 minute. I want to double check and see if anything's come out. I also want to see if any of the other major news organizations are going with this. I'm going to bet no. Has anything else come out? Let's see. That's from 3 hours ago. That's okay. No. All right. So let's see where we are now. According to the Facebook page of the Ministry of Culture. So I'm trying to find. It would be nice if I had a link to the Ministry of Culture page. I wouldn't be able to read a word it said, but I could look at the pretty pictures. Okay, so I don't even know. That's just out of curiosity. Oh, yep, CNN, the weather is bad. Which actually, no, that's a good point. Yeah, it looks like a triple play of weather hazards will unfold this week across the U.S. That's true, and that's been we've had that in our news section too. It looks like the U.S. is about to get hit with some very significant weather, and they're covering the Rust incident and a few other things. But we don't. Okay, they're not covering this. So right now, our only source is Reuters and AP and Facebook. All right, good. All right, so yep. Listen, not that relying on CNN is necessarily the way to go. I'm not, but all right. Well, I'm going to take a look and see if we can get any more video. If we have any more video that we want to put in here, we've had a few extra drops. We don't have any live feeds. Usually in a situation like this, if we can, we like to put live feeds right into the stream, but their internet is down and their cell services has been cut. So no phones, no internet. All we get is whatever, and I don't know, there's probably some satellites. There's obviously people there with some kind of satellite connection somewhere who are sending us what we have now. So the military government is going to speak presumably shortly. I don't know what that means. they're going to speak. Okay, I want to hear this. And I want to hear this because even though I cannot understand the language, this was one of the things that we gleaned earlier. So earlier, we were listening to these to a whole bunch of the protests. They were laughing. They were having a good time. So I don't know what that means, but that was interesting to see. And I would like to hear, my guess is none of us are going to be able to understand what this young girl is saying, but I'd like to hear her tone. She looks happy, which is surprising, but on the flip side, I mean, they've seen a lot of stuff like this before. I mean, remember this was Darfur, so you know. Let's see what we got here. There's the young girl.
عشان نبني حياتنا ومستقبلنا بصورة حلوة زينا وزي أطفال العالم نرفض أن نكون أطفال عالم ثالث مدنية
Well, that is definitely one of the cutest kids I've seen in quite some time. So that was okay. So we don't know what's okay. Not much gleaned there, except for the fact that it's clear to me that this is almost jubilant. I don't. This isn't quite like the other protests we've seen. It's not that different, but it's still okay. All right, I'm not gonna. It's. I mean, I'm hopeful that this means that they think that they can do this. So. Okay, if he says clearly she's being coached, this. I'm gonna start to lean on troll. Clearly she's being coached. Oh, dear Lord. Okay. I'm not even going to begin to unpack that one. Tens of thousands to support up the transit. Okay, last Thursday, according to Titan, tens of thousands showed up to support the transitional government. So, you know, if that's the case, I'm cautiously optimistic. And again, the fact that they're rushing to put a spin on this, I take as actually a good sign. I'm trying to remember what was the last coup that we covered, but it took them forever for the military to get out and say something. Oh, well, no, it wasn't. Was it Thailand when we were covering? Or sorry, not Thailand. Oh dear Lord, my brain is really not Myanmar. There was Myanmar. All right. All right. Well, yeah. So yeah, I could play more, but I mean, none of us are going to understand it. So let me do another rundown. I'm going to check. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to check. Well, because I'm an idiot is why. Yeah. Thank you. Well, and I've seen you around before, and I know better too, because you've been around forever. But I just you know, what can I say? My brain's at half power right now, and I don't know. I'm known for a number of things, but being phenomenally gullible is probably chief among them. Probably shouldn't be advertising that, but then again, basically everybody who knows me has already figured that one out. Whenever I see people, I see the best first. And if there's anything bad, it takes me a very fucking long time to see it. But see, you're the prime example. I mean, you're just a horrible guy. And how long did it take me to figure that out? I mean, come on. I am unaware enough of the, yeah, it took me forever. All right. Thank you, Titan. I'll be checking the Discord in a minute. And all right, let me see if I can get back to Daryl, you've been here for like a year or two, and it's like you're a good guy, so I don't know. Just give me a break, okay? I'm just. All right. Yeah, I've seen some in the news. Most of it's pretty short. So yeah, she was cute. Yeah. Point taken. Point taken. Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, dear Lord. Well, how else are you going to destroy a channel, Titan? Suppose you don't need an army, but you like to have friends along for the ride now, don't you? Okay. So I haven't heard anything. Let's see. Let's see. So what I'm going to do right now is double check. Okay, this is the most. This is the most evident weakness of the pro-military camp. So there is, yeah. So there are some counter-protesters. There is some pro-military protesters. We don't know their numbers, but it appears to be really rather small. But we don't have. So no, it looks like other than this, we don't have anything. So I'm going to do one more rundown, and then we'll do another check. And if we haven't heard from them, we may bow out for a short period, maybe longer than a short period. We'll bow out for a little bit and reassess. So where are we? The Sudan, the history of how we are where we are now. This is a military coup in the Sudan. How did we get here? Well, President Umar Hassan Ahmad al-Bashir was president for 30 years. He had a tyrannical and dictatorial regime and was ousted in April of 2019. A sovereignty council, which was part military, part civilian, took power and was establishing free and fair elections, and with the goal of having a fully democratic form of government. A number of benefits came out of this. They were actually on the list of states that sponsored terrorism. They have been removed under the condition that they did two things. One, that they continued on their path towards democracy and obviously, of course, did not support terrorism. And two, that they recognized Israel as a state, which they have done. This makes them the fourth Arabic country to do so. So they've been fledgling, they've been struggling, but making forward progress slowly but surely up until, well, in September there was a coup attempt, and the military half of the council blamed the coup attempt on pro-Bashir loyalists who were trying to overthrow the government and possibly return Bashir to power. However, the general consensus was that no, this was actually the military, and that they were trying to establish their own regime in place of the current government. Protests started against the military half of this council and got to be at least several thousand as of a couple days ago in front of the presidential palace. They were protesting what appears to have been a attempt at a power grab, followed by, well, I'll stay off of that for a minute. At any rate, these protests were continuing, and about 4 or 5 hours ago, for some unknown reason, we don't know what incited this per se. My suspicion is that the military thought that they were going to be ousted soon if they did not act. At any rate, they arrested 5 members of the civilian council, including the Prime Minister of Sudan. They have reportedly, we haven't confirmed this, but reportedly, all right, thank you. They have been trying to pressure the prime minister into going onto television and saying that he was handing control willingly over to the military. He refused, and he has been taken somewhere we know not where. Meanwhile, as word of this spread, first thing that happened was internet was cut, phone lines were cut, and protests started in the night. And as sun has come up, the protests appear to be growing larger. They are obstructing the streets with tires and burning tires and burning vehicles. And there have now been calls from every major political organization and trade organization in Sudan to oppose the coup. And the United States has said that we will withdraw all support from the we will withdraw all support, financial support from Sudan until the military government withdraws from, the military officers withdraw from the government and return the government to civilian control. So it looks like now former BBC journalist and head of Sudan Television, Lukman Ahmad has been arrested. It's an unconfirmed report, but that's just something that we're hearing here. My suspicion is, of course, they're trying to they have to get control of the television. That looks like what they're trying to do. And all right. So, and as I said before, so we there was at some point pro-military, and actually it looks like this is there's a lot of information to sift through here pretty quickly, but what it looks like to me was actually the very first protesters were about 2 months ago, and were actually pro-military, and they wanted the military to take over because they felt that it would accelerate the country's recovery and prosperity. It was a small number of protesters, very small, and then immediately counter-protesters that were against the military came up. I've heard some reports of the pro-military protesting on occasion, but I haven't seen it. So it's a little hard to tell, but they appear to be at least no more than a tenth, just from what I'm seeing, of the total number of people who've been on the streets. But we now have this, which is, it looks like, the port, which is one of the interesting. I mean, hold on. Okay, this has been an ongoing. Oh, thank you, Titan. Okay, now I'm getting this a little slow here. So it looks like there has been an ongoing blockade by some of the pro-military protesters who have blocked the port of Sudan. This has actually put a huge strain on the country. The Sudanese government was having difficulty with essential medicines, fuel, and wheat. And so they've been under that blockade for, let me just quickly see here. Okay, so it looks like that blockade started, no, I don't know when it started, but it's been around for at least 3 weeks. So there's been a blockade of the port. The blockade was made by the pro-military protesters, and so it looks like a lot of the counter protests, what we would think of as protesters, but they're counter protesting. I don't know whether it goes by who protested first or not, but the first protesters, it looks like, were actually no, this doesn't include the September, but my understanding is the very first protesters were just small groups of pro-military. Then the pro-civilian government came out and just swamped them, but it looks like they were unable to, maybe they didn't want to get violent. I don't know what happened, but the port apparently has been held by the pro-government protesters for at least 3 weeks, probably longer. And that's been a huge part of the problem. So that's been causing the pressure to try to resolve this situation. Stated the civilian members of All right. Okay, that would be a difference. So what I'm looking at is, I'm looking at a blockade of the Sudan, but that's from October 6th. So I don't know if that's a separate, if they've reinforced, or if it was Ethiopian troops repelled after. Okay, no, that's 26th of September. It's been okay. So there's been. All right. Well, yeah, that whole. Some trolls said that whole area is unstable. All right. There we go. I was going to, all right. Thank you. All right. All right, so let's see where we are. We're going to do a rundown. We'll cover the whole thing, and I think this is going to be the last rundown. I'm really glad you're here, Pat, because I have a couple of questions. Just a few. All right, so this is the part where I do my best to talk about history and get my ass handed to me. If anybody wants to block Pat, just like if you slip and do like a butt block on him, it's just like perfectly understandable. Happens all the time. All right. President Umar Hassan Ahmad al-Bashir was in power for about 30 years in the Sudan. He was a dictator. Under him, the country went on the list of states that sponsor terrorism. This means that they would not get any aid from the U.S. or from our allies, and he was ousted in April of 2019, and a sovereignty council, which was a joint military and civilian body, took hold of power in November 2019. Since then, they've been trying to do their best to. It's been a fledgling democracy since then, and they have been trying to hold elections and have a government that is representative of the people. Now, the U.S. agreed to take them off the list of states that sponsor terrorism in exchange for a commitment to continuing to improve on their democracy in their country, and for recognizing Israel, which they became the fourth Arab state to do so. Now, since that time, there's been some tension between, like I said, there's a joint civilian and military executive body. There's been a good deal of tension, and there was an attempted coup in September. The military blamed pro-Bashir loyalists who wanted ostensibly either to free Bashir. Bashir is 77 years old. He is facing trial for war crimes and for, I think, plundering the resources of the country and a number of other things. Either wanted to reinstall him or rebuild a form of government similar to Bashir's. However, the general consensus appears to be that it was not pro-Bashir loyalists, but actually rather elements of pro-military loyalists that had been attempting the coup and or the military themselves. That's the best of my understanding. I don't think we know for certain. If we do, Pat would be a better source for that than I. At any rate, since then, protests started and grew to several thousand over the weekend that were in front of the presidential palace, protesting the military half of the government and calling for, I believe, the resignation of, and I've forgotten his name, but the head of the military in Sudan. Around now 5 hours ago, it appears that the military attempted a coup. The military has taken 5 members of the civilian government, including the prime minister, and it appears, this is unconfirmed, but appears was trying to get the prime minister to go on television and say that he was willingly ceding authority to the military. He refused to do so, and now we do not know where he is. However, okay, so it looks like the police are going to engage. However, wait, all right. Sorry, hold on one sec. All right, so, sorry, I lost track of where I was. At any rate, they cut the phone lines, they cut internet, and it appears like they've gotten control of the head of the network television for Sudan. They have arrested, at least this is unconfirmed, but it looks like they've arrested the head of the network, a former BBC correspondent, I believe. And they've said now that they're going to have a message for the people at some point soon. We've been waiting for that. They said soon about 45 minutes ago. And, I don't want to... right now, all we get is what people seem to come out on satellite. And thank you. So we're... Oh, it looks like... Did I pause that or no? It's out. Okay, well, there you go. So, and we do now have a report here. Sudanese police are firing tear gas at protesters. So let's just see. Reports have emerged of a clash between Sudanese police and protesters blocking a bridge linking the capital to Baray city. Okay, well, so maybe that's why they're setting up the roadblocks. So shows you what I know. Let's just see what this is here. So this is I don't know this source, but it seems legit. But we'll just keep in mind that right now we don't have a lot of sources that we would normally recognize, like Reuters and AP. So, yep, it looks like there's been now at least one exchange between police officers. Now, okay, it looks like police have now been ordered to open the roads and take decisive and necessary legal measures to deal with the violence by the supporters of the dissolved party and to ensure the flow of traffic into the capital. So it looks like the tires that you see burning there, they're trying to cut off the capital from the rest of from the rest of the country. So that's it. That's the rundown. So I'm going to give this another minute, and then if we don't catch something for the next minute, I think we'll probably wrap it up. There's only one source that I've got that seems to be reliable. That's getting news out. Okay, and they are saying now that it's protests in at least one town, Khartoum, is now in the thousands. Yeah, that's at least 400. I'm not sure I'd call it thousands, but the picture I just saw is at least 400. All right. Well, so that's it. The police have been ordered to break up the protesters. The protesters are heading over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this another 2 minutes, and we'll start to unwind this. If we don't hear from the government in 2 minutes, and if we don't have any other significant news, I'm actually going to call it. I'd like to get some sleep, so I'll get a little sleep, and then we'll see where we stand tomorrow. Obviously, there are a number of sources. We've got some links. And if you want to join us on the In Time Discord, you will see that there are people who have greater endurance for lack of sleep up there. And this information usually starts there. That's where I get my information first, is somebody on the Discord hits me up, drops a link, and we go from there. So you're going to see throughout the day, the rest of today on our Discord, people are going to be dropping information. We do have the news with the red alert thing is just for news that's potentially for going on air, and there's a standard for that. Everybody there knows what they're doing, so don't hesitate to ask if you want help. We've already had a few people, I think, come into the Discord. So come on in and chat with us. We'd love to see you guys there. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. And like I said, I'm going to make one last check, make sure we've got everything in order. Okay, there is one more thing that just came in, so let's just see what this is. Nope. Okay, it's just, well, and there's some more footage, but I think I hope so too. Like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't, like I said, I'm running on probably about 4 hours of sleep over the last at least a day, so a little punchy and a little more verbose than usual, but which is a challenge. I mean, that takes effort, but yeah, like I said, just looking at this, I'm cautiously optimistic looking at this, but I hadn't. I wouldn't have thought it's 3 a.m. in the morning. What the hell is he doing up? Oh my God. Jake, $2. Thank you, Jake, so much for your support and your sense of humor, which is when we're all tired. I certainly appreciate. Jake 2D, oh darn, what I miss. Well, at least I hope it's a sense of humor. It may just be that he's, right at the end. Freaking. Speaking of trolls, we have an unusually high troll quotient this time around, but okay. Yeah, I don't, like I said, I was very optimistic early on, especially because this seemed so unplanned, but, maybe like I said, I'm tired and I'm not thinking straight, so who knows. I'm still cautiously optimistic, but the fact that the police are firing back, I was hoping that the police would be a bit more on the civilian side, but that may not be. It didn't look like it was military police. It looked like it was just standard police. And if the police are firing on the protesters, and they outright said that of the dissolved party, so it's a two-party system, and one party just dissolved another one. They're like, okay, this is normal. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, just to reiterate, what we've got right now is we've got at least some police that that appear to be loyal to the military, and the military has said stop the protests. We've got a number of protesters who have been lighting fires, have been putting cars and tires out into the streets and burning them. It looks like the port is in the hands not of the military, but pro-military protesters that were part of the start of this. So there's no getting into the port. But the Biden administration came out about 2 hours ago and said that they would not give any aid to the country until the civilian authorities have been restored. My guess is every other Western country in the world is going to say the same thing. So that's, depending on who you ask, a lot of money. And, there's, depending on which troll you talk to. So I'm a little surprised that there's sufficient numbers of pro-military protesters, and what it seems to be is they just think that the military is the fastest way out of poverty, and they're more interested in establishing a strong country and security on a military level than they are in democracy. And that makes some sense. It's hard to be interested in democracy when people are starving. Now, this is, as I said before, it is not a poverty-stricken country. It is a poor country. And there is a difference, but it's a poor country, and that needs to be understood. So, yeah, we did the last rundown. I don't think I have the energy to do another one. I apologize. The long and the short of it is, now watch. I'm going to go do another one anyway. The military coup in Sudan. They've arrested 5 members of the civilian government, including the prime minister. And it looks like they tried to get the prime minister to go on television and say that he was willingly handing over power to the military. He refused to do so. Military said they'll come out with this statement. And I'll get to that. Anyways, the military said they would come out with a statement. They have not yet. The images I've seen have been of several different cities with at least hundreds of people massing. There are now reports of thousands, everything I've seen. The largest I've seen had a photo of what I would guess would be about 400 people. but it's now 2 or 3 hours into daylight over there. So as people are learning about this, again, no internet, no phone, so they are just learning by word of mouth. You can see that they're putting stuff in to obstruct the roads, and the U.S. has said we are not going to give them any aid. I'm curious to know how this is going to influence, they acknowledged Israel as a state. My assumption is the military wasn't a fan of that, so the military may roll that back. So, and then the military ostensibly has control of the port. It's not really the military, it's civilians, but they're civilians who support the military and took the port in protest of the civilian government. So, I don't know, that's where we are. So, we've been waiting for now almost an hour on the military, who had said that they were going to make a statement. They haven't made one yet. So I think we're going to wrap this up. And Discovering Ancient History with Pat Lowinger. The real question is how well staffed and equipped the police are. That will likely be the guiding principle for how they will react. I do not see the police going up against the military at all. Well, that's a really good point. Okay. All right. So that's it. Like I said, on our Discord, you're going to see information being dropped about this throughout the day. If it warrants it, we will be back to cover it. We have Nate the lawyer on tomorrow night to discuss women's soccer and the gender pay gap. And then we're going to have the day after that, we're going to be discussing the definition of atheism with Dr. John Shook. It'll be his return to the show. It's been a while, so we're looking forward to that. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you guys next time there's something to talk about. Have a good one.